thanks for the introduction and congratulations to all the winners as well. Today we'll be talking about Python in AI and ML. As the Dean has rightly mentioned, Dean sir has rightly mentioned, AI and ML will definitely be what the future next big technology will be running upon. So I am Harshvardhan. Just to say a simple thing about me, I am 2020 graduated from Amrita. I did my bachelor's in computer science from Amrita Coimbatore campus, and I worked in Amuda lab, which is Amrita Multidimensional Data and Analytics Lab. It's a lab which is funded by Amrita and is in Amrita only. And I worked on in research on ambient sensing, which is basically getting the data from different sensors and building intelligence out of it using AI and ML algorithms. So currently I've been associated with Microsoft for the past like 1.5 years to 2 years now. I work in part called as Azure Networking in Microsoft Hyderabad campus. So without any further ado, let's get to the session. But before doing that, I just wanted to know, I don't think I'll be able to raise hands. Yeah, right. We are able to raise hands though. But basically, I just wanted to know how many of you are aware of the term GitHub. So anyone who have heard of it, who have raised it, who have used it, yeah, 44 hands up, 49. Whoa, nice. Out of 680, I think if we just wait long enough, it would even go all the way up to 678. So yes, so GitHub is this wonderful platform. There are certain variations to it. There's something called as GitLab. There's something called as Bitbucket. So all these things are basically one thing. Like if we just have to summarize it in normal terms, it would be, how do you effectively manage your code? How do you, push your code so that it's safe, so that you are able to see the history, so that if something goes wrong, you have a code to go back to which works. And also it also opens door to numerous other opportunities. And one such thing is this open sourced. And again, I just want to know, can you quickly raise your hand if you have heard about the term open source? And just the speedometer has been increasing. Yes. So I'm not sure. I'm sure that some of you might have even contributed to many open source projects. But if you have not, it's basically because of this GitHub like platforms. Open source is heavily facilitated, and this is basically like someone has starting a project, and there are a lot of projects actually, Docker, Kubernetes. A lot of these are open sourced, and you can still contribute to them right now. So there are a lot of projects which are open sourced, and you as a developer, you and me as a developer can add code to it. It doesn't mean that I can just tomorrow I can do something and polarize a request to Windows itself and Windows will change it, right? But there are some maintainers on GitHub which tells which part of the code can go in and which cannot go in. That's by a process called as pull request. But basically these two open doors which which would not have been possible without these. So now, what is Python? The old joke is to just say that it's not a snake, which we already know. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. But what is Python? It's basically, you would have heard about C, C++, C#. These are all different ways in which human can talk to computers, right? These are all programming languages which you as a person write in a syntax that you can understand, and it as a computer will be able to decode what you mean and do it for you and give the output that you asked for. And one such wonderful program is called Python. But before I even talk about why Python is popular, let us just go through one example why you should love Python. This is the magic of Python. So if you are aware of quicksort, which is a very famous sorting algorithm, which is basically used to, if given a set of objects, how would you sort it based on the numbers in it? So how would you do it based on size, probably any given metric? How do you sort it? This is one such method which you could use for quicksort. It's one of the best in that area. And this part of the code which I have pasted is from Java. And in Java, to implement quicksort, you have to do this much big code. This is probably like a zillion lines. And right off the top of my mind, if you ask me to implement quicksort, I would take a lot of time to first think what it is and again write it up. But basically what I mean is it's a lot longer. The code is a lot longer. And if you see this Quicksort in Python is this one single line. You could use a single line as a lambda function, and you could do exactly the same thing as what Java did with so many lines, right? So one thing from here is evident that Python makes it short, and you can also see it's like if, else, in, for. So everything is very verbose. So simply put, it's easy to learn and use. Easy to learn for you and me as someone who is starting to learn programming, who loves to learn programming languages. It's an amazing way to get into this ecosystem. It's very easy to learn and it's very easy to use. So much that even at Microsoft, we a lot of times use Python to create what we call as POCs, which are basically proof of concepts, which means that if we don't know the entire idea will work, we'll just implement a part of that idea, which is not be very good, but it is faster to implement. We use Python for that because Python is just amazing that you can do complex things very simply. And it's backed by an amazing community. And when I mean this is basically, if you are stuck at some problem and you just Google it, more often than not, you will end up with that answer that you're looking for. So the community is that if you have a doubt, there are people who can always reply to it, be it on GitHub you're posting or be it on Stack Overflow. If you have heard of these platforms, you ask a question, there is more often than not, even before you ask the question, there might have been already a question in those portals. And also the open source packages. We will in few minutes we'll also learn about what are the packages, popular packages in Python ecosystem. But there are some amazing blockbuster open source packages, and we'll also learn about what companies use. What all the companies which use Python as their main language, right? And of course, this is the main theme why we are going ahead with this session, because it's loved by the AI and ML community. It's so loud that there are packages, and there are packages fighting, like there's A versus B. I will talk about what is A and what is B, but there are multiple packages which give their best, and these are all open sourced. And the main reason why they do it is basically to simplify the user experience in creating AI and ML models. Now let us see what roles can Python take up, what all the avatars that Python come in. First thing is web development. So today itself, you might have been getting your updated about what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, right? So when you type something on Google that what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, there is some server which is sitting back at Google's data centers, and which is waiting for your request, and it hits that and it will return you back that answer. So if I'm just oversimplifying it, but basically your screen, the browser is the client, and those servers in Google data centers are called as backend. And Flask, Django, Pyramid, these are all different web frameworks that are developed using Python. So if you learn Python, you also know the syntax of these more or less. And using these, you can create these beautiful web applications, backend service. I personally have used Flask during my internships, and that's for backend purposes. Django, you can create it to, it's based on something which you call as model template and view. So that's another framework. Pyramid is one such framework. So these are different frameworks which are which use Python as their language, and which will allow you to create these beautiful UIs, user experiences, and backend servers which you can host it, and you can develop these UI. And Python also comes in the form of gaming. So I personally haven't used Pygame, but there is this package, and this screenshot is I'm giving it to you based on pygame.org, their website, and you see that hundreds of games are developed using Pygame package. So just by using Python. But if someone comes to me and tells Python, gaming, what I get is Unity. Using Unity, people create games a lot. But Pygame also has its own good share, and you can see that hundreds of games are getting created using Pygame. So this is again another framework by which you can create UIs, you can create animations, and also again just by using Python. And the more importantly, this is machine learning and artificial intelligence. And when in the start, I said about A versus B, and this is exactly what I was talking about at that point. And it's TensorFlow versus PyTorch. It's a huge rivalry that, people who follow TensorFlow hardcore, and people who follow PyTorch. And both the frameworks are basically it helps you to create these AI and machine learning models with ease. How do you if there is something and there are two different packages and two different libraries, right? And when I say library, it's basically like, if say for example I'm writing a piece of code to find out if a given number is prime, right? And you are writing that same exact code for writing a prime. For academic purposes, we understand, because we want, the teachers want us to learn about how do you code it out, what is a prime number and how do you code it using programming. But as a developer who already knows what's a prime is, it doesn't make sense for me to start from scratch saying that what's a prime. Okay, hey, now I'm going to list down what are all these devices, then I'm going to check out. So these are the things that you as a developer need not write it anymore, right? So I just oversimplified it for you, but these libraries are like those set of functions which you don't have to implement. You just have to install them and use it right off the bat. And you don't have to worry about the implementation and accuracy, because these are again community backed. So you don't have to worry, hey, if I'm executing this part of the code, am I getting hacked? Or, does it take some information? Does it access my camera? Because you can do all of these using Python actually. But the thing is, why you can be safe of using these libraries is that these are open sourced, and by open source means that this code is readily available. You and me as normal people can just go and see it on see what the code does. You can see the actual code and you can understand that, oh, this is what it does. It doesn't do something spooky. It is not collecting my information. So it should be safe for me to go ahead and use this library. So it's community backed. If say for example someone is putting some adware, or someone is minting some cryptocurrency using this code on your machine, so those things will be found out, because people are vigilant and they always see what's the code in it. So they can't hide the code, right? Because it's open source. So they that policy, that possibility itself doesn't exist. And so machine learning and for machine learning and artificial intelligence, these are two different unpopular libraries, which makes your job of creating AI and ML models much easier. And a lot of more projects in a lot of different categories. And but again, if you come to the why question, it's basically two of them. It's community support and ease of use. You have community support which verifies the code, and if everything is good, then it's fine. If something is malicious, it comes out, and it's not good for a open source project to have such thing, because people will not come again and use your product. So it's community support, community backed. So if you are facing some issues, you probably will get a resolution very fast, and it's easy of use, because by nature itself Python is designed to be easy. Just to be given an example, just to iterate over boxes. Now, what would you do in C or C++ is you have some weird syntax, not very weird, but there is some syntax which is some geekish. But in Python, it's for box in boxes. It's like plain English, right? So that's what we call it as verbose. It's very English. It's very humanly that you think that. So the syntax is very familiar to us. The onboarding to this platform, the learning Python is a breeze. And who uses Python? Now let's go through some of the people who uses this Python as a core part of core and parcel. You'll be surprised to know that right from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to again when you go back to sleep, we use all of these applications, and a lot of them are powered by Python. Instagram, our favorite app in the modern age of social media, according to their engineering team itself, it says that the world's largest deployment of Django web framework is Instagram. So Instagram uses Python as its core language in its backend. So when you are just logging into your Instagram app, some data is coming up from a server, and that server code is written in Python, and it's based upon Django web framework, which is entirely written in Python. So Instagram does it. So probably it is worthy to learn, right? So Google, every moment you search something, here Sajji, Larry, and Craig, who are the earlier people who have developed Google. They made this engineering decision that Python where we can, C++ where we must. So it's like by default, it's always Python. So if we can do it with Python, let us do it with Python. If it cannot be done using Python, which is very rare given the support and the number of libraries available, but only then we'll go to other languages. So such is the importance given to Python by these big MNCs. And if you see Spotify, it says that its backend consists of many interdependent services, and 80% of these services are again written in Python. And that's one more proof saying that, hey, it is what it is, and Python can handle such loads as well. Netflix saying that, what, and this is not directly about what their infrastructure is, but basically what they say is that these third-party libraries, which are again, these libraries that we talk about, makes it easier to solve any problem. So if you think of a problem, you don't even have to write the code for it. There is probably a package that someone have already written it, and they have published it. You can simply install it and use it. There's no point in you writing it from scratch. We don't want reinventing the wheel for obvious reasons, right? And that's the reason Python is very famous, because for everything, to be, honest, there is a package called as is even. So how much time does it take if to see a number is even or not, right? But still, someone weirdly enough has created a package to check if a number is even or odd. So to that extent, there are, for every functionality that you can think, there are libraries which you could use, and you can also be sure that they work as expected. Now let us see about a few of these libraries. I keep talking about libraries and libraries, but what are these libraries and how many? What are these popular libraries that we're talking about? Let's see, and we'll have some screenshots from a demo. I initially planned for a demo, but that's doesn't seem to work on this PC for some reason. So these are some of the very famous libraries in AI and ML ecosystem. NumPy, yeah, it's a library which asks, matrices. If you want to multiply matrices, you want to build up these arrays. So for all of these reasons, NumPy is very famous. Anything numerical, NumPy is the way to go. So Keras is another wonderful library which is for creating ANNs, which is basically artificial neural networks. For creating ANNs, Keras, rightly said, one of my professor, like in one of our courses, we had this, we had to use Keras, and it's exactly seven line code for creating a machine learning model. That's it, 7 lines of code. It'll be just right to the bat. So once you understand about what AI and ML, how the feature extraction happens, how the sampling happens, and how do you train and test. So there is a procedure to follow, right? So those are exactly those steps only. Each line corresponds to a step, and in 7 lines, you have a entirely powered AI ML solution. Keras will get it down to that level. There are other libraries which can give you more flexibility, but for a lot of us, Keras is just enough. And for pandas, it's again, when handling with data, for data manipulation, pandas is a wonderful library. It provides way to split the data, sample the data, how do you divide the data, and all that. Beautiful soup. As the name suggests, it's not a soup exactly, but what it does is it allows you to scrape it. You can see that people, using the URL of the web, you can just using code, you can extract the information from those. So say for example, you want to get the top 10 news. So you don't have to write the code, or basically you're creating an NLP project. For that, you want some data. You don't have to copy paste it and put it into your data sets. You can use this beautiful soup, and you can just directly, do something called as web scraping, which is basically scraping data off the net given website, and you can use that for your training. And what's NLTK? NLTK is again for natural language toolkit. It's also for that, but it gives a lot of ways to tokenize it. So once you understand how NLP techniques work, you will see that in a lot of places they use NLTK library to achieve it, so that they don't have to write all the code. Imagine, eating has to be trimmed out to eat. So there are a lot of the such scenarios in natural language processing, and in those scenarios also you won't write those code, right? So you can directly use NLTK, and it'll help you to trim it out. A lot of NLP standard procedures can be done using NLTK. GenSim is used for unsupervised learning. You will get to know it when you learn it, but it's basically without you telling anything to the machine, it itself is able to understand what the data means. So for that, GenSim is an amazing library. If you just talk about image processing, I don't have the demo ready, but I can just show you a screenshot that I took long back, and it's for recognizing digits. Right now, you can just see in your phone, you can have Google Lens, right? And Google Lens is used, you can just click a photo and you can copy that text. All that is used primarily based on this ideology. You just train it, and then your model will get better at recognizing text from picture. That's called OCR. So this is that. So this was one program that I have written like a year ago, I guess, while I was giving a session to another set of people. But it's basically this. So I have written 4 on a paper, and I showed it to my camera, and it's able to detect that it's a 4. So how do you identify that and remove remove everything else? Because I am also there on this, but still, how do you highlight the number, like highlight the text, and then how do you realize that that means a 4? For me and you, it's easy, but for a machine to do it, you do it using machine learning technologies. And Python also allows you to have these visualizations, wonderful graphs, basically. So for a lot of MI and ML and AI scenarios, there comes a state where you need to understand if we are going in the right direction. So at that point, you might have to take a step back and use some libraries called as PyPlot, and understand how the data distribution looks like, and how is the training happening, and what's the accuracy of my model is. So all these things are very much easy to do when you are using a inbuilt library called as PyPlot. For you to write a code to do this, it might take a lot of time, but it's basically an installing a package from pip on Python, and you just write it off the board. Just say pyplot dot graph, and you just give what's the x and y coordinates, and it will do it for you. So these are different libraries that it happens. And if you just want to, this demo that I have shown you, if you want to have it on your own PC and you want to experience how that works, there is one link. I can share it later, and they can share it over to you. But yeah, so if you want to do it, you can do that. Now, yes, so you have seen it all on program. This is a meme that I just wanted to show you. The choice is yours. Python is the smart way if you want to learn AI and ML. But still, before you want, this is my one opportunity to talk to a lot of you guys. So just 3 points I would like to tell you, given that you are in your +1, +2, 9th and 10th classes. One thing is to have the learn it all versus know it all kind of mindset. So learn it all mindset is where you're like, acha, okay, that's something new, let me learn about it. But know it all means that I know this already, I don't have to learn anything new. So having that fixed mindset will not allow you. This is nothing related to AI and ML. I just wanted to give it out. Thought it would help you down your career. And learn it all is having that flexible mindset that, okay, if I learned something and now it's outdated, this is something new that I have to learn, I'll go ahead and learn. I don't want to be egoistic about my knowledge. That's one. And second thing is be curious. Every time, just don't take the matter of fact. When someone says something, question it. Being able to question them up and understand, why is it that you say that? What's the backing? A lot of times they'll explain you in a more deeper way, and then you will get convinced, and you will end up having more clarity on the topic. So be curious, ask questions and all, and build credibility, be it by having your pet projects, fun projects, or being ahead of others by doing some learning new stuff, always keeping on updating yourself, and be it certifications like these. That helps you build your credibility. And yeah, that's it from my end. Thanks all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Harshavardhan, for a wonderful session. The students had a good time. And also, before we end the session, we would like to hear from you your experience at Amrita, like your life at Amrita. How was it?
Sure. I come from Andhra Pradesh, Vijayawada. I'm not sure if the audience are from there, but even I was in that IIT JEE coachings and all that. So I came to Amrita Coimbatore campus, and in 2016 we joined here. Wonderful campus. You can see the pictures of it. I have it on my phone right now. But it started initially. I was terrified because I was not coming from a computer background, and yeah, thank you, Sandeep. So I was not initially from a computer background, so I was scared like what's going to happen, and this is a new guys, and Amrita is full of these wonderful people who have from ICSE, international boards, and having computer knowledge in front, programming and all. So I was a little scared and alienated on how do these things work, am I a little too far behind? But then luckily I was not that. So obviously the world class faculty has backed us in every day, and one thing I really liked about is the research labs in Amrita. So I myself has been part of Amuda lab, which I have earlier shared on the slide, where we do research work. So it also helps you not to do what everything else does. You can do something which is of your own interest, and Amrita funds a lot. If you want a new Raspberry Pi or an Arduino, there are already probably many in Amrita, and you can always buy ones and reimburse it. And they have a very good open policy for updating their own. They frequently update their labs and stuff. So all in all, it's a very holistic view, and it's a very we had fun. We have a huge football ground for obvious reasons. So we have fun at the same time. The club culture, the coding clubs, the tech clubs we have at Amrita, the ASM student charter club, which I was personally a part of and have delivered. I have been a recipient of a lot of those events conducted there. So all in all, it's like you have fun, you also learn, and at the end it comes to placements opportunities, and even there they help you a lot. And yes, it's been a wonderful journey.
Really happy to hear that. So Harshvardhan, we have a few questions related to the topic which you have done today. So the first question is, how much time does it take to learn Python in an intermediate level?
Yeah, so I still, after have been using for a couple of years professionally, and a couple of years even before, preparing for the interviews and stuff, I still consider myself as an intermediate. So intermediate or proficiency, this all depends on the scale at which you measure. But for you to be comfortable to understand the syntax, to learn it and implement it, using these libraries out of the box, and being able to come up with solutions, writing those programs. I think 6 months is even a very long time. You can wrap it up even in a month or two also. You can get the basics started, know what's the fundamentals of Python are. You can even do a course on that, or yes, there are a lot of resources online, but once done, in 1.5 months, you should be able to know the basics of it. And once you start doing it, obviously you cannot know the entire Python at the start itself, but the basics of it should be done in 1.5 months at least. And by the end of 3 or 4 months, you'll start learning the language.
Thank you so much. The next question is, what is the difference between a framework and a programming language?
Okay, frameworks use programming language. These are two different things. Programming language by itself is basically a way for you to tell the PCs what to work, like what do you want me to do. It's just that you tell that. But frameworks are like a wrapper on top. So frameworks allow you to build these MLAI solutions. Framework allow you to build these applications, website applications, backend servers. So frameworks are something which provide you support into creating applications. But behind the hood, even these frameworks are using, like you code in the framework using programming language. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Thank you so much. The next question is, what is hacking?
Okay, so hacking is basically, so there are two separate, there are red hat hackers, black hat hackers, gray hat hackers. So hacking basically means taking some information, like at least the cinematic view of it is hacking into other systems, right? Stealing others' information without their approval. That would still term as hacking. But then, it's been used for security. They have a lot of what they call as white hat hackers. Companies hire them a lot so that to have a robust testing on their product so that they are safe from the actual hackers. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how could a programming language and MySQL can be differentiated?
So programming languages. So MySQL is basically a data, query language. If you have a set of data in a database, you use SQL to retrieve the data. So you have, say, for example, Amrita probably has some SQL database which has the list of students, right? So to query it, that's the querying language. So you use SQL, you probably use GraphQL. So there are a lot of querying language. That QL means querying language. So those are querying the language, basically telling, hey, get me this data from this entire data set. But programming language is to program everything. You don't necessarily query the data. You can create data, you can save data, you can display data, you can send data, you can receive data. All of these are possible using programming language, but querying language are just pertain to that sphere wherein there is some set of data and you just want to get the data. How do you query from it? How do you alter that data? All the CRUD operations, basically CRUD, they say create, read, update, and delete. So these you can do easily using SQL, but programming language is a different subject. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is, through what all sources I can self-learn Python?
Geeks for Geeks. That's the first things that comes to my mind. So just Google for Python Geeks for Geeks. You have the basics of it. You can run it. But yeah, but not just that. Any online course which will tell you Python, or even Python.org itself has a documentation. If you are someone who likes to read a lot, then you can go through that. But if not, you can very well sign up for a Udemy course or any courses like this one to learn the basics of Python. It's really not that hard. So you can still be able to, if you just go and search it in Google for Geeks Python tutorial, you should be good to go.
Thank you. The next question is, what is on-page SEO and off-page SEO?
I assume that it's related to search engine optimization. Not my expertise. I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. Can you explain the scope of AI and data science in India?
In both public and that's that question, right?
Yes.
Okay. So AI and data science, it's everywhere, right? So right now, if you see the whatever it has been doing, India, whatever the country has been doing in the past, right? If you see, there are systems right now. Say for example, COVID itself, there are these apps which could detect based on I forgot that app name, but basically it tells you how much it's spread around you. Not right now, but at the time when it was peak, it was helpful because that which are COVID probable COVID zones around that, having those distribution, like which is more infected area, so that you can avoid going into those places. So that comes under AI only. Or be it, say for example, you are speeding and there might be some camera which will just look at you, read your car number and automatically find you. And so that is also an AI and ML application, because it's able to do that OCR while you're doing, and as well as it is able to detect the speed. And if it's above, it's doing that. So in public sector, obviously in government, in government sector, I would say, all these health, probably for finding cancerous cells, probably they already have those systems which can detect those from the normal cells. So those, and in traffic, in health, a lot of those sectors, in every sector more or less, in future there will be a application of AI and ML. And coming to private sectors, which are like MNCs and stuff, there is always, it doesn't actually matter, right? If it's private or public, there will always be applications, no matter if you are Google Lens, your Google Assistants, voice assistants, vision, computer vision. These are all different scenarios where ML and AI will be used. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, is J necessary for engineering? Yeah. So that's all we have from the students. So students, apart from these questions related to today's topic, I can see that many of them are asking whether the applications for btech is open, and for BSc also you are asking. So the applications for btech is open now. You can visit www.amrita.edu/btech. Type it in the chat box also. So you can apply for btech at Amrita now. You can apply for AEEE 2022. And apart from that, tomorrow will be the quiz. So the quiz, which many students have a doubt whether initially whatever the felicitation which we have given, it is for another quiz we have conducted in association. It was not a quiz, it was a JEE practice test which we have conducted in association with Manorama Horizon. So that was for it. And the quiz for AI and robotics workshop will be conducted tomorrow, and it will be happening at the same time. can join through CRP, just like how you have joined today. And yes, so we'll see you all tomorrow. Get it ready for the quiz. And yeah, all the best to everyone. And once again, thank you, Harshvardhan, for joining us today, spending your time. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you all tomorrow.
All the best, everyone. Thank you.